everybody, and welcome. It is 6:11, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Poway Unified School District Board of Education. It is Thursday, August 9th. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it is indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Clerk Sellers, please report out a closed session.
In the matter of closed session item 2.1-A, there was no reportable action. In the matter of closed session item 2.1-B, pending existing litigation, case number TC-17-36, on a motion by Beatty and a second by Zane, the board voted to settle this case for the sum of $16,000. The vote of the board was unanimous. Item 2.1C, there was no reportable action. Item 2.1D1, there was no reportable action. Item 2.1D2, there was no reportable action. Item 2.6-A, on a motion by Zane and a second by Patel, the board voted to approve the appointment of Richard Nash as principal of Poway High. The vote was 3-2. Those voting in favor were Zane, Patel, and O'Connor Radcliffe. Those opposed were Beatty and Sellers. No other reportable action was taken during closed session, which adjourned at 6:05 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Sellers. Superintendent Phelps, did you have something to add?
I know Mr. Nash is here, and I know there are people here that represent the Poway community, and so I'd like to invite him to the podium to introduce himself and be welcomed by staff to the Poway Unified School District. I know there were some concerns and questions around the recruitment process, and so I want to make the public aware that the recruitment and the interview and selection process for the Poway High School principal was thorough, valid, effective, and was conducted in the same manner that we've done to fill every single principal position in the district. We posted the position on EdJoin. After Mr. Garrett had made his decision to resign from his position, he notified his entire Poway High School community of his personal decision as to why to step down from his position. In respect to his privacy, we went ahead and respected his privacy and posted the position and recruited for education for the jobs. EdJoin is the largest and most frequently used recruitment site for education jobs in the country, and it was posted for 14 days. Following that, we collected feedback from parents and staff members through a survey, which we do with every other vacancy. Information was used to identify the needs and qualities and leadership characteristics desired in the next principal. We conducted paper screening of all the applicants who had applied for the position. Those applications were thoroughly reviewed by a group of paper screeners who looked for that they had the appropriate credentials, that they were highly qualified, and that they met the minimum requirements and qualifications needed and requested by the community. Those particular applications were then forwarded to be put before a first panel interview. The panel consisted of nine people, which included a parent representative, a teacher, a classified staff, a former principal of Poway High School, Mr. Scott Fisher, who I believe is also in the audience, and 5 other representatives from the district, including our associate superintendent who facilitated the process. At the conclusion of the first level interview, the panel unanimously selected only 3 candidates to move forward to the superintendent's cabinet for final selection. Those 3 candidates were unanimously selected by the entire panel. Those candidates were interviewed by the superintendent's cabinet, and all 6 cabinet members, without a doubt, had unanimously selected Mr. Nash as the best and most qualified candidate to serve Poway High School. Mr. Nash has been an accomplished and qualified and experienced principal of over 9 years. Poway High School is a big school with a lot of moving parts. And it is a school that any new AP moving in as a first year experience as a principal, we felt would be really overwhelming in setting up anybody for not being successful. What we've done is also added in some very experienced assistant principals to support Mr. Nash as he comes to Poway High School. We have Mr. Aaron Little, who is also in the audience, who will continue as an experienced AP at Poway High, as well as bringing over Mr. Colin Young, who's also in the audience, who is an experienced principal or assistant principal at Mount Carmel High School. And with all of our administrators at Poway High School, we feel that we've set up this team to be highly successful, highly effective to help move Poway High School in the to the next level. Mr. Nash has accomplished a lot in a comprehensive high school that was low performing, and when he received that school, I personally, as an area superintendent, witnessed the transformational work that he had done in that school. It's much more difficult to take a low-performing school that has a lot of high needs and be able to successfully move that school than to make small movements in a school that's already high-performing. I'm super excited about looking forward to see what he and his team will be able to do to take Poway High to the next level. Mr. Scott Fisher is a community member, and he served on the panel as a respected community member of Poway, and he was part of the process. And I'd like to ask if he's here, if he wouldn't mind coming forward, and he could speak to the process as well as what he knows about Mr. Nash as a fellow high school principal.
Good evening. You know, more than talk about Mr. Nash, I would talk about the process for selecting Mr. Nash. I was surprised that I was asked to be part of that process, being a former principal, but pleased. And when I was very judgmental about Mr. Jimenez, the one doing the process, just because I haven't been part of such a thing in a number of years. And I was very, very impressed with how it was done. You need to know this. I'm very supportive of Mr. Nash. I like him. I really liked him in the interviews. And understand, I had a lot of people who I had hired who worked with me for years who were finalists for that too. And I love those guys too. And one is a lady. They're all really, really good people, all very qualified. It was our role to make recommendations for that next level. And so we did that in a process, like I say, that was very fair. I don't really know Mr. Nash too well. I was really impressed with him in the interview. Any guy who's been a principal of a school for 9 years, he's done something right. It's not that easy to do, trust me. In reading letters about him and hearing from other people about him, I became impressed with who he was and what he's done. I think oftentimes here in Poway, the idea of somebody from the inner city coming to suburbia for a principal's position might seem strange to us. I remember back about 20 years ago when a school in San Diego was open called the Preuss School, and I remember they selected a fellow Powayian, Doris Alvarez, who was from an inner city school, from Hoover High School, to be the principal of the Preuss School. If you look at that school today, you won't find very many lists of top high schools in America that don't have it in the top 10 schools. What she, as an inner city principal of an inner city school, was able to do with that school, and it's continued on, was super. And I have every belief that the same thing will happen with Richard and Poway High. One last comment: the Poway community is a great place to work. I love it. I still live there. People don't believe me, but I say to them, I even love the parent community there. People get behind their educators there. The city of Poway gets behind their educators. The firemen, the policemen, everybody does. I love that element, that component there. and it's a great place to work, and I am fully confident that Richard will do well.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher.
Thank you.
With that said, Mr. Nash, I want to apologize on behalf of what you've experienced in the last couple of days, and I want to have you rest assured that our district does support you in your endeavors to lead Poway to the next level. And we are very excited to have you be the next principal at Poway High School. With that said, welcome to Poway High. If you want to say a few things, I welcome you to the podium.
Thank you. It's hard to find words to come up here after Mr. Fisher speaks. He is definitely where I will be when I am done with my career. I hope to be as accomplished and as well respected as he is in our community. I'm very honored to be serving the Poway Unified School District. Thank you for accepting the change. I have dedicated to bringing success and growth and many other changes to Poway High School. Having said that, there are many great things about Poway High School that simply need a little tenderness and love. The career pathways, the support that needs to be poured into our performing arts, as well as the everyday potential of every student at every opportunity. Building and finding that passion in every student and growing it so that they can find their educational excellence is my mission. I hope that alongside the well-oiled, well-seasoned, incredibly experienced administrative team that's been brought before me today, I hope that we can change Poway High to be what the community deserves, what they expect, and to raise the stakes every year. Cannot sit stagnant in what we hope. The dedicated staff, the passionate students at Poway High School should not be lost in this conversation. As a principal, they are where the work lies. They are where we find our fire. And I hope that they will come alongside and help me make sure that Poway High exemplifies world-class learning. I thank you again.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Nash. Thank you, Dr. Phelps. We're a little bit further along into the time-wise into the beginning of the agenda than normal. So let us move to 3.3 and let the record reflect all members are in attendance this evening. And I'll turn the formal welcome for tonight's meeting over to our newest student board representative, Jacob Schwartz. Jacob.
Welcome to the monthly meeting of the Board of Education. If you would like to address the board on any agenda item, please complete a speaker's slip. All requests to speak must be submitted to the clerk of the board before the agenda item comes up. If you are requesting an agenda item to be pulled for a public discussion from Section 5.0, Consent Calendar, a speaker's slip must be submitted to the clerk now, as approval of the consent calendar is one of the first items up for approval. Item 4.2 is placed on our agenda to enable members of our community to bring items that are not placed anywhere else on the agenda to the board's attention. Speaking time is limited to 3 minutes per speaker with a maximum of 15 minutes per topic unless waived by the board president. There will be 30-second yellow warning light when time is running out. Speakers may only speak on one topic under item 4.2 and may not defer their speaking time to another individual. If there are concerns regarding specific individuals, it is preferred that the speaker refrain from naming them publicly to respect their privacy. The board will accept and review any written materials that would provide more specific information. The Brown Act does not permit board action or extended discussion of any item not on the agenda, but your concerns will be referred to staff. With that said, welcome and thank you for coming.
Very nice. Round of applause for Jake. Your first intro for the meeting. That brings us to item 3.5, approval of the agenda sequence. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is a motion to approve by Mr. Connor Ratcliffe? Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Patel. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Brings us to item 4.1, the student board representative reports. And I will call forward Seth Francis from Abraxas High School. Welcome.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to say hello and thank you for allowing me to represent the board or present to the board today. My name is Seth Francis. We have two programs today at Abraxas High School, the Diploma Program and the Transition Program. I am a senior in the Diploma Program. The Transition Program is for young adults 18 to 22 who learn life skills at Abraxas and in the community. The program has a small number of students attending summer school. The students in the Summer Transition Program continue to develop their mobility skills using MTS in the community to get to and from their job sites, make purchases at grocery stores, and improve their overall independence. The students also work on projects around the school during the summer, and a few of the students have been busy constructing a storage unit for Mr. Weese's class. Other students have learned how to harvest peppers, onions, tomatillos, and other vegetables from our garden and use them in cooking class to prepare meals. Transition Summer Program ended last Friday, and the students will be off until the start of the regular school year. The Diploma Program starts in the first quarter on July 19th, and we are well into our school year. Students from English and art classes will be going to La Jolla Playhouse production of Seize the King, a modern interpretation of Shakespeare's work. The Leadership Club served at the 19th annual barbecue at Brookview Senior Housing. On August 14th, we will be conducting a joint cooking class with the seniors using our Abraxas garden produce. Abraxas High School has been chosen to host the Julia Morgan Society Club. Each month, a lunch meeting is held with interested females looking to gain knowledge and confidence to enter a construction industry. Guest speakers from the industry will explain how they got started in their careers, what they do, and how they meet with their challenges. The Julia Morgan Society Clubs are overseen by mentoring committee of the Women's Construction Coalition. Other topics of discussion include scholarships, resume building, internships, a summer job, and visits to job sites. Our first meeting was a huge success. We have 10 students signed up for the fall classes of Palomar and have selected the following classes: American Sign Literature, Cinematography, Philosophy, English, Welding, and Health. All students will be with the exception of the student taking the welding course, will be at the new campus located in Richard Bernardo. Students from both the Diploma and Transition Program participate in the Abraxas Garden Project. The Abraxas Garden has now surpassed 2 tons of produce donations. To date, we have donated 4,283 pounds of produce to needy families in our community. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Francis. Call for Delaney Anderson from Del Norte High School. Welcome.
Hi. Okay. Hello, board and all in attendance. My name is Delaney Anderson. I'll be speaking on behalf of Del Norte High School as their ASB president. I'd like to touch on the ways Del Norte High School continues to be college-ready, future-focused, and globally aware. College-ready, we continue to pride ourselves in the high level of academics that our school offers. We proudly graduated 494 in the class of 2018 and are confident they are all going on to do amazing things. Our teachers and counselors will continue to prepare the students at Del Norte for their bright futures. In addition to the school year, a class of hardworking students studied on campus this summer during a 6-week Hamilton program. Future focused, we are excited to welcome Mr. Schultz to the Nighthawk family who is here, and I would like to speak for the school when I say we are thrilled to have a new principal that's willing to enter into the challenges, celebrations, and adventures that Del Norte has. On a different note, ASB is going to continue to push inclusiveness and welcoming atmosphere as our school strives to be by prioritizing and event planning. Our goal is to make sure that all of our students have a say and feel like they contribute to the campus they grow in. We are offering new courses as we continue to grow and expand our campus with the 660 plus incoming freshmen from Oak Valley, D39, Bernardo Heights Middle Schools. We're renovating our gym currently as we're excited to have the addition of a Nighthawk mural thanks to our 2018 graduating class. Globally aware. I toured a group of 20 plus students from Spain around our campus in July, and they're in awe of all the amazing opportunities that our campus holds. Mr. Schultz is promoting the line, "If you can be anything, be kind" this year as we seek to be globally aware on and off campus. It's great to be distinctively Del Norte. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Is Tyler Vandenberg here from Mount Carmel? No? All right. Maybe next month. Who knows? I appreciate it. You guys are welcome to stay or go enjoy what's left of your few days of summer. So thanks for coming and thanks for your reports. That brings us to item 4.2, public comment. Clerk Sellers.
All right. Our first speaker under this item is Amy Thompson. Pardon me?
Do you mind if we reverse and Virginia Valente is first?
No, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. And we have a handout. Can we pass that?
Hi, I'm Virginia Valente, and I'm the Director of Kids Time. Kids Time provides after-school enrichment classes for the students of PUSD. I have several concerns with the new tiered fee structure for facility use. Firstly, the California Education Code says the district may charge organizations for direct costs associated with the use of facilities. The fee structure, as it stands now, with hourly fees ranging from $15 to $38 per hour, seems a bit steep to only cover direct costs, especially for a program like ours. We have been providing services to the students of PUSD for the past 34 years, and we have never been charged fees. We have been told that this is partly due to the fact that our classes run in the hour immediately following school dismissal, sometimes 2 hours. More importantly, we take issue with the policy regarding the criteria for inclusion in the different tiers of the pricing structure. The policy states that unless they are scheduled during a time in which no custodian is already scheduled, the members of Group A do not have to pay a fee. Group A membership consists of internal PUSD groups or nonprofit groups organized to directly support the district's core mission. For example, Girl Scouts and Boy Scout troops that meet during the first few hours after school. I printed out the copies of the policy so that you can see the wording. Kids Time prides itself on providing quality after-school education that directly supports the core mission of PUSD. If the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts meet criteria, we most definitely do. My daughter was a Girl Scout until high school, and my son is an Eagle Scout. I have the utmost respect for the scouting programs, but our program is broader in scope and perhaps touches more students in the district than the Scouts do. If the district believes that Kids Time does not meet criteria, the wording of the policy should be changed because as it stands now, we solidly fall within the Group A category and should be accepted from paying fees just as the Scouts are. Thank you.
There we go. I'm Amy Thompson. I'm her daughter. I attended school in PUSD from K to 12th, and I have 3 kids in PUSD. My mom, who just spoke, and I run Kids Time. It's a prototypical mom and daughter operation. When I was in 4th grade at Chaparral, she started the program when the PTA asked her to develop something. When I moved to Twin Peaks, she developed something there. Currently, we're at 16 elementary schools. Of the remaining 10 schools, we have been at 9 at one point in time or another. If you have been a student in an elementary school in PUSD over the past 30 years, you have probably taken one of our classes. Kids Time is a staple of the PUSD community, and we take that responsibility seriously. We often provide gift certificates for PTA and foundation fundraisers. We offer some need-based scholarships. All of the rooms we used are volunteered for our use by the teachers. We have about 4,000 enrollments every year. Last year alone, we had about 2,000 students in our program coming from 1,500 families. Our families rely upon our program to supplement their children's public education and to provide child care after school. We provide education in a whole host of areas that the public school system no longer has the time or money to provide. Some of our classes include abacus, American Sign Language, art of all kinds, basketball, chess, clay, computer programming, cooking, crafts, etiquette, gardening, gymnastics, hip-hop, Lego engineering, martial arts, musical theater, piano, robotics, science of all types, sewing, soccer, Spanish, reading skills, tennis, and yoga. Just to name a few. The new fee structure will require that we raise our fees by 10 to 30%. Since we strive to keep our fees as low as possible, an increase like that will need to be passed on to our families. This will make our program much less available to the families of our district. Kids Time, with the services it provides, definitely meets criteria for membership in Group A, alongside the Scouts. As my mom says, I was a Girl Scout for many years. My brother's an Eagle Scout. I know about the scouting programs firsthand, and I'm struggling to see how they are appropriate for Group A membership while we are not. In fact, our flyers advertise the fact that some of our classes may help Scouts complete requirement steps. To have a policy that essentially says only Scouts don't have to pay fees is awfully exclusive, but that's how this policy is being implemented. If our far-reaching educational program doesn't directly support the district's core mission, I don't know what does. Please make sure that it's being implemented properly. Our flyers have to go to the printers on Saturday. Unless we get this settled, thousands of families of PUSD will be affected by significantly higher fees for the services we provide, services which directly support the district's core mission. Now, we didn't blanket email our database because we don't use our email database for spam, but we brought some supporters here. And I'm actually wondering if there may be other people who we weren't in contact. If your children took Kids Time classes at any of your schools, anything like that, yeah. If you value our program, if the fees change would affect you. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We very much appreciate the consideration.
Thank you very much for your time. Please feel free to meet with Associate Superintendent Mr. Little afterward, and I'm sure we'll be able to address your concerns. Thank you.
The next speaker is Lisa Begg.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Begg. I run a not-for-profit called Bricks for Kids after school. I have been doing this now for about 5.5 years. I became not-for-profit in order to provide our program to Poway Unified. We learn, we build, and we play using Lego Technic bricks. All of our models move with motors and batteries. We utilize STEM. We utilize Common Core state standards for math and next generation science standards for science in our enrichment classes as well as our workshops. We've been providing our enrichment program and workshops in PUSD schools for over 5 years, and we believe we're providing additional education which many of the kids do not have access to. We've been voted Northern San Diego's best STEM program for 2 years in a row by Hula Frog. Although we somewhat understand the need to begin the facility fees, of which we haven't had for 5 years, Bricks for Kids doesn't use anything from the school with the exception of the room, power for an hour a week, and possibly the restroom. We arrive when the bell rings, and the staff or teacher are typically still there utilizing the same items that we would. We're fingerprinted, background checked, TB screened, and certified in CPR, child, infant, as well as trained with the EpiPen. We've increased our special needs spectrum kids tenfold over the past couple of years. They thrive in this environment, and it's helping them work with other children in a team and use their voices more. We keep our fees as low as we can for the parents and the kids' sake. We get the kids from ESS when necessary. We walk them back. If they're not in ESS, we walk them to the front gate, as most of the schools now require us to do. One 6-week session in just 10 of the schools would cost us $2,268, which includes each service fee paid to Facilitron, the new mechanism in which we need to register our program. And that's only if we use a classroom. Some schools require us to use their LRC or library, which would be more for us. In closing, shouldn't we consider a community group falling under Group A? We're giving back to the school and the community by integrating STEM in a safe, fun, and learning environment. Isn't giving back to the kids in the school what we're all striving to do? Anything given back to the school and the kids has a direct influence on our district's testing scores as well. And as you go through your packet, you can see that there are our Ferris wheel, if I may have a prop.
Please, I was waiting to see that.
Our Ferris wheel is designed by George Washington. We give out information on axles, gears, Newton's law. We do ratios as far as the STEM goes, so they have to do ratios in grades 3rd through 5th, where in this case we have an 8-tooth gear up against a 24-tooth gear. Our ratio is then 3 to 1. Our ratio on a 40-tooth gear to an 8-tooth gear is 5 to 1. We teach those ratios and ask them to reduce them and from the fraction down into the ratios in the upper levels of elementary school. We have our math worksheets.
I'm sorry, that's the end of your time.
Thank you so much. You can leave that running there if you want. It's
You can leave it running.
hypnotizing. I'm joking. Encourage you to also meet with Associate Superintendent Little afterward, and I'm sure we'll be able to address your concerns.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
The next speaker is Tova Terranova.
Hi, it's Tova Terranova again, just saying hello. Thought I'd check in. It's been a good summer. How is yours? I just want to say hi, really, and introduce myself. I know I've been up here with a lot of fury and a whole lot of not having the words, so I just thought I'd make sure I introduced myself personally before I did anything. And I'm just a wife, I'm a mom, I have 2 kids here in the district, and I'm very involved with my community, and I feel that every single person has a duty to do that, and I appreciate every single one of you and every single thing that you do here, and especially Superintendent Phelps, you've done so much, and I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done. We have a lot of work ahead of us. There is so much to do. It is extremely daunting. However, I persist, and I keep showing up because you're people, just like I am, who want to do things and get stuff done. So if you have a vehicle that you would like to move, so to speak, and you need someone to help you, I would like to volunteer. I don't know what it is. I don't know where it's at. I'm not sure how it serves you or in what larger purpose, but I'm here for you if you need something to be done. And that's all I have to say tonight. I hope that you all had a great summer, and most importantly, just remember who we serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sellers.
The last speaker is Janet Latang.
Good evening, Superintendent Kim Phelps, Superintendent's Council, and Board of Trustees. First, a quick correction to something I stated earlier. I did find the board policies on the website, so sorry. Another internet search found them for me. Okay, with regards to closed session item 2.6A vote, thank you to the school board for listening to the Poway High School community and our concerns and what we wanted you to think about when you were making your decision. And thank you very much for taking that into that consideration while you were voting. And I would like to welcome Mr. Nash to Poway High School. And let's see, to clear up any rumors, I just want you to publicly know that I heard the name of Mr. Nash from a San Diego Unified School District employee. You're welcome. Okay. Finally, I would like to give a shout out to Poway High School and Westview High School. College Board has a new SAT, and they also have a new way of ranking schools. I'm going to quote an article. The agency created a new standard for students heading to college. It says students who score above a certain level in math and reading and writing have a 75% chance of receiving a C or better in a related college course their first semester. Data shows 58% of San Diego County students scored above the standard in both subjects. Okay, but Poway High School scored 80, was one of the top 5 scores for the County of San Diego with a score of 84.7%. 84.7% of Poway High School students who took the new SAT scored high enough to be considered college ready, and 83.9% of the Westview High School students took this new SAT scored high enough to be considered college ready. Shout out to both schools. Congratulations. They are high achievers, and that's what we want. And thank you all for remembering all that, and that's what we want, the best for our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LaFang. Thank you, Mr. Sellers. That brings us to item 4.3, an information or presentation by California Consulting LLC Grant Writing Services, Associate Superintendent Little.
Yes. Thank you, President Zane. Good evening, everyone. It has been nearly 1 year since the district engaged in a partnership with California Consulting to assist us with mining grant opportunities and writing targeted grants on behalf of our students. And while we'd probably characterize the results of the past year as modest at best, the superintendent and cabinet remain hopeful that a renewed vigor manifests itself in the near term. You'll recall that the current contract has a 30-day termination clause, so we'll be expecting much improved results within the first quarter of the new school year. We'll certainly support that work, and we'll provide a subsequent status report later this fall. This evening, Holly Bachman, statewide senior director with California Consulting, will update the board and the community on the past year's progress and our plans moving forward. Welcome, Holly.
Thank you so much, Associate Superintendent Little. And yes, so my name is Holly Bachman, and is this, oh, you got it. Okay, you do have it. Okay, that's coming up. Perfect. Okay. So President Zane and the cabinet and superintendents, thank you so much for allowing me to be here. And I'm back from last year. Tomorrow's my birthday. Last year was my birthday, so this is a celebration here. Just really quickly, I won't take too much of your time, but we've been really honored to have the opportunity to work with all of you and your staff. And as Associate Superintendent Little mentioned, I'm the statewide senior director, and my role is to tag team with our CEO, Steve Samuelian, and then our grant writer, Dana Lush, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, but I'll be representing them. But we, just a little briefly for the public, California Consulting is the largest grant writing firm in the state of California. We've been around for almost 14 years, actually going on 15 years, but we provide solely grant writing services, so that's why we're here today. There's a presentation, but I believe everybody has a handout, but for the public to see. I'm just going to basically give a really brief annual progress review. So what has allowed us to achieve our success over the almost 15 years is we really have a overall strategy. We work with each of our clients. And just really briefly, we do a needs assessment, and we do facilitation of our department decision-making, working with the cabinet, with depending on the different projects. We actually do the grant research and identification. We bring the grants to you, but we also work on grants that you may be working on that you need further assistance. We do the grant preparation process. This is where a grant writer actually works with very closely to the individuals that are working on the actual grants to make sure there's actually quality assurance, all the dots, I's, T's crossed, stapled, double spaced, size font 10, and then one of the other aspects is working with developing partnerships means, and I'm going to go in further with that in a few minutes. And then, of course, most important is timely submission, and we also provide a value-add service of grant administration. So once a grant gets awarded, we also do the post-award documentation reporting. And then, of course, over the past year since when we started September, because the contract got approved last year in August, the biggest thing that we do is also doing the client monthly grant reporting. So that means we provide a monthly written report, and then also the client meetings, so we can provide anticipation of grant progress, what's been funded, what if there are any issues that have come up, and then also to discuss future opportunities. And this is actually kind of what we did. We took a deeper dive, our needs assessment. I came down and met with Associate Superintendent Mr. Little and the rest of the staff, and this is some of the results that we came up about: your after-school programming, transportation, bus replacement grants, STEM and STEAM projects, as I've heard earlier today, and the multi-tiered system, MTSS and anti-bullying type of grants. Professional development came out of it, as well as innovative teacher coaching, expansive language immersion programming, and then other opportunities for grants in locally, and then with the SANDAG grants. So these were just a few topics that came out of the needs assessment. So what we've done with that list is we identify grants, scour internet, our databases, and we match up grants with those different projects that were outlined that the district had priorities with. These are the actual live grants that are pending, that have been written and waiting to hear back. We have the KLA 10 Core Foundation for $50,000, the USA Football Field Build Grant, $50,000, the San Diego County Neighborhood Reinvestment Program in the amount of $75,000. These are actually grants that we actually submitted. So working closely with our grant writer, we work very closely with a lot of your staff, and these are just some outlines of the grants that we submitted: the Motorola Solutions STEM Education Grant, Amgen Foundation, the CDE NSLP Lunch Equipment Assistance Grant, and then the California Department Prop 51 CTE Facilities Program. And we're really excited that we did get awarded, or you did rather, the $150,000, and that was it was the Education for Homeless Children and Youth grant from the California Education Department, and this was to provide vouchers, computers to youth in transition and students, and expanding staffing hours. So congratulations. And then when we talk about, with our kind of monthly grant report, this is what we do as well, is we go back to all of your staff and say, hey, here are some of the upcoming grant opportunities. Are you interested in, matching these to your other priorities? So some that are coming up is the big CDE SSP grant. And then we have the Title IV federal funds coming up. So we'll be discussing kind of different priority projects that may be of interest that could be funded by that. The Stop School Violence Threat Assessment Technology Reporting Program, the California Department of Education, it's an early education expansion program. We also heard needs of the video and school security, and then also with the NEA, they have an Our Town community grant, which is pretty flexible in what it can be that can fund. And of course, continuing the wealth of type of grants that the NEA offers, and this goes kind of into your professional development, learning and leadership grants, and then continuing the CDE special education, and then also with some of your facilities, your playgrounds. Kaboom is actually a major funder for revitalizing, renovating, getting new playgrounds in place for schools and cities. And so over the past year, again, we've have been really enjoying working with all of you. Some of our action steps, I've worked very closely with Associate Superintendent Osborne and Associate Superintendent Ron Little and their staff, and very grateful for the last several months as we kind of recalibrate and figure out how we can get more grant awards for all of you. So thank you, superintendents. And but what we've been able to do is evolve a kind of an action step to continue working with you, with your staff. And this really is what we resulted in, is really doing more face-to-face monthly meetings with our monthly meetings, we give options with our clients, whether that would be in person or via conference call. And so we decided, you know what, we need to have a more hands-on approach and so we can get information. And then that actually, just a little bit further down, is really developing more partnerships and brokering relationships with your district foundation. Because, you know, we always believe it's not what you know, it's who you know. So, and it's about relationships. So we're going to be more active coming down. We also have other clients in San Diego, and so for us to make the trip, it's not a problem. And I love San Diego. So, but also to, again, really team up and work with all of you to broker those really well-needed partnerships, because even with those relationships, that will also expand your grant opportunities. You'll see that we've done a lot of the federal government grants. I think there's a real opportunity to look into the private foundation, but even more corporate foundation grants. A lot of these corporations are really stepping up to actually invest in schools and cities and really funding partnerships between the two. So there's a lot of opportunity to really expand in that area, and I think Poway is a perfect candidate for those. Some other, again, just really reiterating the improved communication. That's, again, along with the monthly meetings, but also even just through technology. I know we had a little technology a glitch, but we're going beyond that. And then just with our conversations, you know, I believe communication is key. And so we're going to just, you know, really focus on the positive and really just continue to submit on your behalf and really focus on your 4 really priority district focuses, which is the ACES after-school programming, again, continuing your school safety and security, your dual immersion opportunities, and then, of course, professional development, since I know I heard you have some new staff on board. So that is kind of a wrap-up. I'm sorry that was so fast, but I know you guys have a full agenda. But do you have any questions that I can answer?
Yeah, actually, just a moment. I was wondering if perhaps we can ask Mr. Little some questions before we ask some questions of you. If that's all right.
Absolutely. And I'll just stay here. Okay.
Please. Thank you. So, Mr. Little, I just noticed from the green sheet, it's been almost a year to the day that we've approved this this contract. Is this was it a 1 year? Can you refresh my memory? Are we
It's an open-ended contract with a 30-day out clause.
Gotcha. And what was it? What were the terms of the? How much per month was the?
$4,500 per month.
Okay.
And we asked for a break for July and August, so we're not being charged for the past 2 months.
Okay. And then just lastly, I noticed in the presentation you had mentioned the grants awarded of $150,000 from the Education for Homeless Children and Youth grants for state and local activities. It's my understanding that was a reapplication on behalf of the district, right? So it wasn't new per se. Are there additional grants that you can report as far as success over the past year that you've applied for that we've been granted that are new that we haven't received prior?
Unfortunately, that is still what we're working on, is getting more grant awards for you. So that is the only one that's been awarded that we've worked on so far. But that is our goal of recalibrating and getting more awards for you.
Thank you. Mr. Connor Ratcliffe.
You stole my question. But the way you presented this sort of made it sound like some of those were you guys, but they weren't. You have not done one start-to-finish grant for us that we've seen any money, any return on our investment with you. And I understand there were some communication gaps over the last year and that those have been resolved. We're looking for this to be a positive relationship on our side, and we're not seeing that so far. I don't think we're going to keep this going for a long time if we don't see some results. That's all I've got.
Absolutely, and that's why we brought together the team and really addressed with Associate Superintendent Osborne and Little, and really actually when we realized there's some technology glitches, and I think there are some staff changes too, that we're like now back on track. And again, I really appreciate the leadership of Associate Superintendent Little, because we were kind of wondering, like we didn't know that Superintendent Mel Robertson had left, so just some communication issues there, because we realized that maybe some of that was maybe some of the barrier or challenge of getting information to the rest of your staff. But absolutely, we take full responsibility as well. I mean, when, I know last year, we don't guarantee grants, but we do guarantee our white glove service in terms of how we write, present, and really get the numbers in terms of submissions, because it ends up being a numbers game. Is the more we can submit, the more we can build those relationships for the funders, the more opportunity and grants awarded. So, we're just grateful that you're allowing us to just give us another chance and being able to, have a few, 2-3 months to kind of prove ourselves. And we totally understand if that is not the direction that we end up going, then we totally accept your decision to move forward in a different way. But we're committed, and I know that some of the staff have really enjoyed working with our grant writer Dana, and so that's a good thing. So we're going to keep that going, and then again improving communication, because I think that's where we felt like that we could have both improved on. So, but we're totally committed, and we really enjoy working with you guys, and we want to make this work.
All right. Ms. Beatty?
Mr. Little, just to follow up on what Mr. Zane had asked about the contract, you said there's a 30-day out clause, but aren't the contracts renewed every fiscal year, that they come before the board for they start anew? Or
if a contract has no termination date, then it continues in perpetua until something changes the contract. The ones that are renewed each year are those that are annual contracts primarily.
Let me speak on.
Oh, hold on. I just want to address the fiscal issue with regard to the board procedure. So we have the contractual services report where all contracts have a not to exceed amount. So how do you structure the contract with a not to exceed amount if it's open-ended, ongoing, never-ending?
It would just say 4,500 times 12, which would be what, $54,000 per annum.
And it never has because normally on the contractual services report, if there's no specified time, well, actually they all have specified start and end date. I mean, some of them are multi-year,
yes.
Some are maybe 3 to 5, majority are 1 year. So how is this one itemized?
Can I just interject? So a lot of our contracts have an annual commitment. So there is where we say, hey, this is a start date, and we would like an annual 1-year commitment. But we have that clause of a 30-day out where, if say something isn't going right, or we do get notices 30 days, and then that's the end of the contract within 30 days.
Right, I understand, and that's very common for a lot of our vendor contracts. We have, say the CFD administrator, Delinka is a perfect example, but they've always had a finite period. That's how the board maintains its oversight. So I'm wondering, I mean, conceivably, if you had never had an end date, you could have a contract that's 20 years old that never came before a board. I mean, just hypothetically. So I'm just wondering how this one was created without a finite duration.
If I recall correctly, we had the conversation at the board meeting, I'm remembering, and I think we discussed the options of either having a contract that was a month-to-month contract, to Macaulay's point, or an annual contract. And I think the direction of the board at that time was to do a month-to-month contract. So in effect, that's what we've implemented.
So if it's month to month, then wouldn't it come to the board every month for approval then?
I don't think that would be an efficient way of doing contracts. So if you read the contract, it says it's open-ended, and the out clause is the 30-day out clause. So that's how it's month to month. So at any point you can terminate the contract given 30 days notice.
Right. I've just, given that we're a public agency, I'm just trying to figure out how the board maintains oversight. Would it be through the purchase orders every month? I mean, there's some kind of billing has to come before the board for
Correct. There
approval.
would be purchase orders generated annually, right? So there should be a purchase order associated with this contract, either on this board agenda or next one.
Okay, thank you.
And that purchase order will be a not-to-exceed purchase order.
That's correct, sir.
Per annum. Mr. Conrad Radcliffe.
Mr. Little, I just want to follow up here. It sounds like we've just spent $45,000 with zero results. And I want to make sure that this board is receiving updates frequently, very frequently. I think 2 months is long enough to wait for the next report, and we need to know that we're spending this money wisely. We expect to have some return, or we're going to stop. I can't stress that enough. We were excited about this, and very little happened in a year. So I really need to see those. I thank you. Can't stress
Understood.
it enough. All right.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to item 5.0, the consent calendar, and 5.1, approval of the consent calendar, beginning with the approval of minutes. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Are you going to ask for anyone to pull anything?
Yeah, I should do that, shouldn't I? I was handling the consent, the calendar, past calendar, I'm sorry. Starting down the line then, we'll start with Ms. O'Connor Ratcliffe. Mr. Schwartz, do you have anything you'd like to pull from the consent calendar? Mr. O'Connor Ratcliffe. Ms. Beatty.
This one item, 5.3B. B as in boy.
Thank you. Mr. Sellers?
I'd like to pull item 5.2E, please.
5.2E. Dr. Patel?
Nothing to pull, thank you.
And I have nothing to pull, so is there a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of items 5.2E and 5.3B?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Ms. O'Connor Ratcliffe. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Ms. Beatty. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, motion carries. Very good. Thank you. Then that will take us right to item 5.2E. Associate Superintendent Jimenez.
Yes, item 5.2E is the approval of the certificated salary schedules reflecting a 2.5% salary increase effective July 1st, 2018. The 2.5% salary increase was approved by the Board of Trustees on the May 10th, 2018 board meeting. These salary schedules include all those for our certificated PFT unit members.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sellers.
Just want to reiterate my opposition to the agreement that gave rise to these adjustments in the salary schedules. I don't think we can afford it. I don't think it's a good use of our resources. And I want to move that we reject this item.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I will second.
Okay, second by Ms. Beatty. Further discussion? To not approve. All right. There's a motion on the table by Mr. Sellers, a second by Ms. Beatty to not approve the item. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. The motion fails.
Don't you go to discussion first?
We could if there. Would you like discussion?
Yes, please.
All right, go ahead.
So I would also like to add my opposition due to the fact that there was a lack of balance. Primary example being that not one counseling position was added to our high schools, despite the need and the demand and the current ratio of 500 students per counselor and the emphatic, impassioned pleas from our students for more counselors, among other programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beatty. Further comments before we call the vote? Okay. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay. Okay. Motion fails. Voting in affirmative, Mr. Mr. Sellers and Ms. Beatty, and in the affirmative, Ms. O'Connor-Ratcliffe, myself, and Dr. Patel. Are there any other motions on the item?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Ms. O'Connor-Ratcliffe,
Second.
second by Dr. Patel. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Motion carries 3-2 with myself, Dr. Patel, and Ms. O'Connor-Ratcliffe in affirmative, Mr. Sellers and Ms. Beatty in the negative. This brings us to item 5.3B. Associate Superintendent Little.
Yes, thank you, President Zane. This is our monthly purchase order approval. The first page you'll note are purchase orders from last fiscal year, dated June 18th to the 30th of 2018, and the following 4 pages are new purchase orders for the current fiscal year.
Ms. Beatty.
So I've brought up in the past my concern with regard to our ever-increasing legal costs. Specifically, they've just about doubled in my tenure here, and I would like for the board to exercise greater oversight over our monthly expenditures. This month, there's almost one of our probably 8 or 9 law firms on contract has 2 different purchase orders valued at $450,000 for services as yet to be determined. I would like to make a motion that these 2 purchase orders in the amount of $450,000 be pulled from the agenda, and in lieu of that, the board would approve the monthly expenditures as they are billed, as they are invoiced, in order for the board to maintain better accountability and oversight over our monthly legal expenditures. So that's my long-winded motion.
Second.
I have a question. That's an extremely non-specific motion. You didn't say what firm, you didn't say what numbers. Could you be more specific?
Okay. The firm is Atkinson, Andelson, and Loya. One of the purchase orders for $100,000 is number 86. And the other one is...
What number? 86? Thank you.
Is 214, and that is also Atkinson, Andelson, and Loya for $350,000. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Associate Superintendent Little.
With respect to the services provided by the legal firm, well, let me back up. So the purchase orders are generated typically by the department that's using the services. So in this case, we have 2 separate purchase orders. One has been generated from Special Ed Department, which is the one in the amount of $350,000. And that is in keeping with what we've paid Atkinson over the past numerous years, and we can certainly provide that data for the board with respect to special ed litigation and all the work around special ed that we do in the district. The other $150,000 purchase order is an amalgamation cross-departmentally, so it represents services that will be utilized by business, the superintendent, personnel, and others in the district if so needed. These are not to exceed amounts. So as you know, legal services are charged by the hour. So we're using historical data and historical trends to generate these purchase orders.
So I just want to reiterate what Mr. Little had shared, that these are purchase orders that are generated with amounts that have historically shown district trends over multiple years of what the district has needed to spend in regards to defend certain litigation cases. The non-approval of the purchase orders would require current litigation and work done by the attorneys to cease, and it would put the district at further liability, which would be the dramatic impact to the district.
Is there a benefit to doing it this way for budgetary reasons?
Pardon me. Yes, the funds are encumbered at the beginning of the year once the PO is approved by the board. And so those funds are off the books and cannot be spent for other purposes.
It's the way that most districts budget. So you set that money aside to ensure that there is money to pay those invoices as they come along. It's best business practices.
And hopefully at the end of the school year, the fiscal year, we put money back and say
Absolutely.
We didn't spend it all.
The hope is that we don't spend it all and there's money to be put back, so there's an end balance at the end.
And to reiterate what the superintendent mentioned, the purchase orders really are the tool through which the district pays our bills. So you approve the purchase orders, that provides us authority to pay the invoices. So to the extent those are slow in coming, the vendors, and in this case, the lawyers, wait.
Thank you, Mr. Little and Dr. Phelps. Further questions? Mr. Sellers.
I think what Ms. Beatty's trying to get at is that this isn't like an electric bill, that you're going to get every month. You don't necessarily know what the amount is, so you set aside a pool. These are very large purchases that the public rightfully has a right to know what we're spending and what we're spending it for. And so when you set aside the contract, that essentially sets aside the money, the not to exceed amount. And then you go ahead and you draft a purchase order for the entire amount of the contract. It's basically just a blank check. And all you can do is you're just writing against the purchase orders. Those things never come back before the board. Whereas if the purchase orders were drafted on a monthly basis, at least for the legal fees, we could see how much was being expended and how quickly it was being expended. If 1 month's expenditures come in at 50% of the budgeted amount, then reasonably somebody would say, hey, wow, that's 50% of an entire year's contracted amount. Where is that coming from? Why is it being charged? Whereas once you allocate the purchase order, we never see it again.
Can I add into that I would note that our check as a board is in our weekly and monthly closed session updates on our litigation, all litigation. So we know what's going on. We do know. Okay. Mr. Little, take it away.
Dr. Patel.
And I think we also report out what we're spending when we report out a closed session with our settlement agreement amount. So we do really know what's going on, I feel like. But I understand your concern.
Settlement agreement amounts.
Okay, so I understand your concern about this. Do you want to have all of the legal fees pulled out, or just you're targeting Atkinson, Adelson, and Loya? Because there are other ones in here too.
Could I just mention?
Sure.
Just a point of clarification. So unlike other professional service contracts, typically legal contracts don't have an amount attached to the contract. So when we get a professional services agreement, we're agreeing to certain rates per hour. So it's not like the Atkinson contract says this contract's worth $400,000. It says our partners are going to charge you this, and our co-partners are going to charge you X, yada, yada, yada. So the purchase orders are a way to estimate what the contract is worth. I don't know if that helps, but I was thinking in terms of as compared to architectural services, where typically if we're going out to design, say, a classroom expansion for Oak Valley, we know what that work is worth because we've gotten bids on it. So those are professional services. That contract's worth $250,000. That's what we expect to pay. But for legal services, it changes, right, year to year, depending on the nature of the work that we're doing.
Mr. Sellers.
And I think what you've just described all the more justifies why the purchase orders should come on a monthly basis for the things that are billed hourly. Because you're right, if we bid an architectural contract and the estimate is $80,000, I don't really have a problem saying, okay, we're going to go ahead and issue a purchase order for $80,000, and when we run out, then you got to come back and explain why you're over $80,000. But when you authorize, $500,000 in legal fees, I don't think it's that big a burden to come back as the monthly fees come in, since, as you point out, they are being billed hourly and rendered monthly, to issue the purchase orders as those fees come in, because they aren't for any specifically preordained costs. They're for costs that arise as services are needed.
Mr. Long.
I don't disagree. I think, to reiterate the superintendent's point, is we don't want to get in a position where the legal work is stalled by virtue of waiting for the approval to pay an invoice that we may have exceeded the previous PO. So that's the caveat that I would offer from my seat.
So having heard all that, I appreciate the perspective of all involved. Maybe there's a somewhat of a middle ground there. I'm a believer in best practices, and if this is, as you say, Dr. Phelps, the way most districts do it. However, is there the possibility of doing something along the lines where it's a semi-annual? So if you were to take these dollar amounts and cut it in half and come back 6 months with an additional amount equal to the first amount?
I don't see a problem with that approach.
That would at least address bringing forward on a more regular basis than annually, and not create a logjam in the cutting of the payments.
I have a concern about then not earmarking money that we know we're going to need in the budget, and seeing, oh, we have an extra few $100,000. Well, we really don't have that. We know we're probably going to use it. We just haven't yet, and we know we're going to need it for the second half of the year. I think that's important for budgeting.
That's a good point. Thank you.
There may be another way that we can retain a little bit more, or even a lot more oversight on those bills, but I feel like this may not be the way. For budgeting purposes, I want that money encumbered. I don't want that to feel like it's available for something else.
Then perhaps the solution is to kind of keep the numbers as they are, but have more as monthly updates as to where we are against those dollar figures.
I just want to remind the board that these are just encumbered dollars to ensure in the budget that you can set aside that money so that it is in the bid budget. And as you know, we operate from a multi-million-dollar budget that there's a lot of things, a lot of invoices that we pay. If we only encumber a set amount, then let's say we go exceed that and that money is spent on something else because we think it's available. There's a lot of things that are moving parts. There's multiple departments, and oftentimes things get oversight. And you don't want this to have an oversight, and then the year we come back and say, we're deficit spending because we forgot to set that money aside. It's just poor business practices. You as a family would not take a vacation that you don't have money saved in your savings account. So it would be essentially the same kind of poor business practice to do. The board is given regular weekly updates of litigation cases, and as you know, special education has a lot of them that are ongoing, and not setting aside that money to allow our legal team to move forward on the multiple cases that we have going on really puts the district at liability, and further costs increases our legal costs in the end and in the long run.
Mr. Sellers.
To clarify, and I'm going to walk around this very gingerly because it is a closed session item, but not once in closed session have we ever been disclosed the amount of legal fees that have been expended relative to a particular litigation settlement. Most often they tend to be special ed litigation, and we are disclosed the settlement, but there's no disclosure as to how much of a legal bill was racked up in arriving at that settlement.
I would just like to add on to that with regard to this idea that it suffices to provide information in closed session. This is a public agency. This isn't merely about the board's oversight. It's about the public's right to know how their money is being spent.
We are happy to provide the board monthly updates of how much the legal expenses are. We're happy to do that.
It sounds like that's the compromise that people are looking for. So to satisfy the need to encumber the money,
we can approve the full purchase order amounts, but provide monthly updates
I'd agree.
of that budgeting.
I suppose
of that expenses
it
spent.
does lack the transparency component with regard to the public's money. And just by way of example, I've had members of the public comment about some of the settlement expenditures that are listed, and because it's disclosed, and so they know potentially in a given month. I mean, they look through the agendas, and then question certain purchases. So.
The general public is more than welcome to do a public records request to request any kind of invoices that the districts have. The only ones that get redacted are the ones that are in a live lawsuit, and the law protects districts and any entity from disclosing that because it exposes the district's position when fighting a lawsuit. So other than that, the public always has the ability to do a public records request to hold the district accountable for any money spent by the public school district.
So
just one other follow-up point of clarification, Mr. Little. You said these were special ed. The $350,000 was for special ed. The line item states district-wide. The code number states personnel. So if this is indeed special ed, then there's an erroneous disclosure here.
Referring to line items 214.
214 is the one that was spent, that he was saying was spent.
Right.
It states district-wide, and the code 222 states personnel.
The two relevant
Neither
line
of those
items,
are special ed.
The two relevant line items are line 86 and line 214.
86
I
was
looked up 86.
Yeah, my apologies.
Also personnel.
Yeah, the special ed one is part of the 350, and the district-wide, I mean, that includes other services offered district-wide. 214. Yeah, my eyes are going there.
Line item 214 is the $350,000 that's being encumbered. That's inclusive of special ed. The other one that you referred to, line item 86, is district-wide legal services. That includes personnel issues.
So the question is, why is the code not 324?
Yeah,
324 is special ed and 222
there is an
is
error on
personnel.
214. It should either be 222 and 224 or simply 224.
Or 324.
324, thank you. So we'll clarify that and bring it back. Thank you.
That being the case, if those are going to, just that line item coming back, or is 86 going to come back too? Just line item 214?
I think just that line item, 214.
So there was a motion on the floor made and seconded to approve absent line items 86 and 214.
Why can't we modify that?
I have to leave it to the... Well, we have to handle there's a motion and a second on the floor. That's where I'm going. So we can come back to modifying. So there's a motion and a second on the floor to approve absent line items 86 and 214. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Nay. Okay, motion fails. Is there a new motion?
Motion to approve with the exception of 214 to have the modification of 222 and what was the number? 324 added.
Second.
There's now a motion on the floor to approve the item with the amendment being to line 214 to include the code 324 in addition to 222.
Just one question. What effect is this going to have if we push this back a month? I mean, obviously it's the wrong line item, but you know, what effect? Are we on solid ground here? We can pay our bills without this?
We're approving it all.
I'm sorry.
The motion is to approve with the change added to that.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood, and I seconded it while misunderstanding. Thank you, now I understand.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. 3-2. Myself, Mrs. O'Connor, Ratcliffe, and Dr. Patel. Beatty and Mr. Sellers in negative. All right, that brings us to item 6.1. Associate Superintendent Jimenez.
Thank you, President Zane. The Assistant Director of Preschool position is recommended to support the growth and needs of our preschool programs. Enrollment in our preschool programs is projected to be 1,066 students in the 2018-19 year, and it has steadily been increasing by over 120 students in just the last 2 years. The Assistant Director of Preschool is recommended in lieu of a director-level position. Currently, we have one director overseeing all extended school programs and all preschool programs. The extended school programs alone are at 27 schools, servicing 4,500 students. Poway Unified's comprehensive preschool program exists across 26 school sites, has 36 certificated preschool teachers, and 90 preschool instructional assistants. In addition, additional funds are expected to be made available to support state-funded programs which can be utilized to further increase future enrollment of our preschool programs. The Assistant Director of Preschool position is no cost to the general fund. The position would be paid entirely out of Fund 63, designated for preschool funding, and is recommended in alignment with other assistant director level positions in our district.
Thank you, Mr. Jimenez. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Dr. Patel, second by Ms. O'Connor Ratcliffe. Discussion.
In addition to this item, specifics as you've said here, described here, I'd like to add that I hope this will allow the ESS program to expand and the preschool program to expand as much as possible. I know there's a lot of demand in the community for expanding these services. It's awesome that they actually bring in money for the school district. They're a very successful program, and I'm hoping that the addition of this assistant director will help them look at the future and expand their programs. I'm excited about that prospect.
Thank you, Dr. Patel. All right.
The only thing I want to add that Mr. Jimenez left out was that there is no impact to the general fund of this position, and this position is being funded through the preschool funding that the state provides just for preschool, and so there is no impact to the general fund, and this is a position that used to be a director position and is being changed to an assistant director position.
All right. With that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Just to item 7.1, approval of California CSBA policies, Board Policy 7000 series. Associate Superintendent Little.
Yes, thank you, President Zane. At the June 28th board meeting, staff presented Board Policies 7000 through 7400, the Facilities series, for a first reading and the Board's consideration. This evening, we seek the Board's approval on the 7000 series for Facilities.
Thank you, Mr. Little.
Motion to approve.
A second. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Sellers, please record Mr. Sellers as a second. Discussion. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Motion carries 4-0. Ms. O'Connor Ratcliffe absent. Out of the room.
Thank you.
Thank you. One of our rare 4-0 votes here on the board. That brings us to item 7.2, approval of the 2018-19 Poway Unified School District revised budget. Associate Superintendent Little.
Yes, thank you, President Zane. As you know, the adopted budget that the board approved on June 28th was predicated on the governor's May revision budget and the assumptions therein. Significant funding changes in K-12 appropriations resulted in the 2018-19 State Budget Act. And so this evening, staff brings a revised general fund budget forward for the board's approval. The details are outlined in the 8-page budget report that accompanies this agenda item, but we just put together a brief presentation to highlight the high-level major changes. So from a revenue perspective, the good news is that the State Budget Act provides a 3.7%, what they're calling an augmented COLA now. So it's over and above the COLA of 3.7%. That's up from 3%. That will result in about $2 million, $2.1 million of additional ongoing funds for the general fund based on current ADA. The not so good news is that the large amount of one-time discretionary funds that the governor proposed in May at $344 per ADA has been cut approximately a little less than in half to $184 per ADA. Still a significant amount of one-time money that we're happy to receive, but that's about a $5 million one-time hit for 18-19. We have some local revenue augmentations that we added into the budget, which are delineated in the handout. I'd be happy to chat about. On the expenditure side, Prop 51, which is the state facilities bond, the $9 billion bond that was approved by voters in 2016, has a requirement that any district that receives state facilities reimbursement funds must contribute 3% of its general fund expenditures to routine restricted maintenance in that year that it receives those funds and every subsequent year. As you know, prior to this point, K-12 districts have had some flexibility with respect to our contributions to regular routine maintenance. Because we expect and anticipate receiving the D39 reimbursement, we'll be compelled to increase our contribution to our RMA account by about $1.4 million. So it's obviously money that we can spend and need to spend. It's just that our hands being forced in this case vis-a-vis the reimbursement. We've also added in some minor staffing adjustments. I think we've added 2.3 FTE of RSP teachers, as well as an executive assistant for our new assistant superintendent. Those are the major changes with respect to funding in the budget. Let's see here. There we go. These changes result in a current year net activity of approximately minus 1.4 million. So you can see we've updated this net activity chart to reflect a slight deficit. That said, I'd just like to remark that as we close the books for 2017-18, we're anticipating a positive improvement with respect to net activity of somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 to $5 million. So we will share that when we bring back the unaudited actuals to you in September, and that $3 to $5 million is net of any carryover that were simply unspent restricted allocations. And then finally, the revised budget results in an ending fund balance reserve of 12.1%, projected at this point well in excess of our 2% required minimum. And as you can see by this chart, within the modal range of our reserve levels here at PUSD over the past decade plus. So at this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I saw you reaching, Miss Beatty. I saw you reaching for the button.
I just want to say
There's
thank
instinct.
you. I don't have questions. I think these are great charts. It really gives you a long-range perspective on where we've been and where we're going. And thank you for that. I hadn't seen it quite this way, so I like this. Thanks very much.
Jake's got a bunch of budget questions. Do you? All right. Mr.
Next one.
Sellers.
Mr. Little, I noticed that, as you point out, we go from, in the current year, since it is August, we go from a million plus to $1.4 million negative, so it's a flip of 2.4 million, based in large part on the loss of one-time money.
Correct.
And as we go out to subsequent years, the deficit is $8 million in 20 and $7.5 in 21. Those numbers aren't dramatically different from what they were in the previous budget. So what happened to because basically what he did is he took one-time monies and he reallocated them into ongoing monies. Yet the ongoing monies don't seem to show up, at least in the next 2 years worth of deficit projections.
Yes, it's a good question, and you're right. When the last time we looked at these numbers, those deficits were also around $8 million. So we would assume that with $2 million more of ongoing money, they would be reduced by $2 million. So the routine restricted maintenance is an ongoing contribution that we'll have to make annually to get to the 3%. So that $1.45 million is not only for 18-19, it's for every subsequent year as well. Not only that, but as expenditures rise, the 3% gets higher, right? So that's part of why we didn't see those numbers come down.
And so it buttresses a comment that I made last month when we approved the original draft of the budget that, ongoing money is ongoing till it's not ongoing anymore. And that's something that did and still does concern me.
I'd echo Mr. Sellers' comments on that point, so thank you. Any further remarks? Okay. All right, with that, is there a motion for approval? Let's start there.
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion to approve by Mr. Connor Ratcliffe. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Dr. Patel. Mr. Schwartz, your first preferential. Oh, yeah, sure. Further discussion. Pardon me.
The only comment I'll add is that I couldn't support this budget a month ago. I can't support it now. It's not materially different. It's still accurate, but it's not materially different, and I don't agree with the priorities that it represents.
Thank you, Mr. Sellers. Mr. Schwartz, you have anything to add or a preferential vote? The preferential vote is in the affirmative to support. All right. With that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Here's 3-2. All right. Thank you. Myself, Mr. Connor Ratcliffe, Dr. Patel in the affirmative, and Ms. Beatty and Mr. Sellers in the negative. This is to agenda item 7.3, our enrollment report. Associate Superintendent Little.
Yes, thank you, President Zane. This is our month 11 enrollment report for last school year. You can see that in the 11th month, our enrollment was 36,256 students, down from the first month by about 278. And our attendance rate for month 11 was 96.64%. The average over all of those months is 96.55%. Just by comparison, month 11 report for 16-17 had enrollment of about 35,859. So our enrollment is about 1.1% greater in month 11 this year than it was in month 11 last year.
What was that percentage again increase? 1 point what?
1.1%.
1 point. Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Little? Okay.
Yeah, I have a question. We had discussed in our one-on-one meeting about the significant dip with the elementary schools. Did we get any further understanding around that?
Yes, we reached out to Mr. Dayoff. Let me find my notes here. I'll answer the question you didn't ask first. We did get some clarification around the high school numbers. So
that was coming next.
Good. So in March, we saw a lot of attrition with respect to graduations. So 57 graduated that month. 32 pulled out of other public schools, and then there were some CASHI successful passing. Some transitioned to adult ed. So that accounts for the major dip at the high school level in that month of March. For the elementary schools, our data is not quite as clear. So what we learned was there seems to be, as you can see, a consistent trend where the elementary numbers go down the last quarter every school year. We can't exactly explain why based on our current data tracking. So we're going to dig into that some more and see if we can have some other data points that help in the future with that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. No further questions or comments. We'll move to agenda item 7.4, report of 2017-18 regular education attendance rates. Mr. Little.
Yes, thank you, President Zane. We do this annually. We share the attendance rates of each individual school for the school year. So just by way of sort of interesting data points, at the elementary level, our ADA range went from a low of 95.86% to a high of 97.34%. So that was a range of about 1.5% across elementary schools. Our middle school range, a low of 96.64% and a high of 97.52%, or a range of about 0.9%, call it. And that mirrored our high school level, a low of 96.2% to a high of 97.1%, again representing a range of about 0.9%. So to the extent we can close that gap across schools, we'll be able to generate more revenues with respect to ADA.
Any questions on this item? Mr. Conor Ratcliffe.
Just to encourage everyone, be more like Oak Valley. Yay, Oak Valley.
Yes. Mr. Schwartz.
Why exactly does the Design 39 campus have the highest absence rate?
I don't know if Mr. Dayhoff has any answers to that, but we will look into that, and I could set up a meeting with the principal with you, and perhaps he can address that specific question for you.
Just to echo Ms. O'Connor-Radcliffe's sentiments, I don't want to slight Canyon View or Del Norte for their accomplishments as well.
All right, thank you very much. Takes us to item 8.1, ratification of student discipline. Ms. Osborne.
Thank you, President Zane. Tonight we bring forward for the board's action one student expulsion recommendation.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Ms. Conor-Ratcliffe, second by Dr. Patel. No discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 8.2, ratification of stipulated agreements for student expulsion. Again, Ms. Osborne.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight we bring forward to the board two stipulated agreements for board action.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion for case number 2017-2018.36?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Ms. Conor-Ratcliffe, second by Dr. Patel. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Is there a motion regarding case number 2017-2018.38?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Dr. Patel.
Second.
Second by Ms. Conor-Ratcliffe. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
President Zane, before we move on.
Yes, please.
I know I've mentioned this before, but I would like to reiterate my request. I would love for Mr. Dayhoff to make a brief presentation to the board at some point to talk about how this works, what the process is. I know we've received some of this one-on-one information, but I think it would be great to have him come and give a really brief presentation to everyone here at some point in the future.
We'll have Mr. Dayhoff do that at the September board meeting.
Great, thank you. Item 8.3, readmission of students on expulsion. Ms. Osborne.
Thank you, President Zane. Tonight we bring forward 5 readmissions for the board's approval.
Thank you very much. Ready? Here we go. Is there a motion on case number ending in .04? Actually, just for clarification, do I need to state the entire case number on this one? Or is this? Is there a motion for approval on case number 2017-2018.04? So moved by Mr. Sellers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. O'Connor Ratcliffe. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion for approval on case number 2017-2018.08?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Dr. Patel. Is there a second? Second by Ms. O'Connor Ratcliffe. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion for case number 2017-2018.19?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Colin Ratcliffe, second by Mr. Sellers. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion in case number 2017-2018.23?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Dr. Patel. Second by Ms. Beatty. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion for approval on case number 2017-2018.24?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Dr. Patel.
Second.
Second by Ms. Connor Ratcliffe. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to say that that's one of the most joyous things that we get to do up here is readmit students who've gone the wrong way but have come back to the fold.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to item number 11.1, action item approval of California School Board Association Board Policies, the 0000 series, second reading. Dr. Phelps.
Thank you, President Zane. Board Policy 000, did I say that right? 0000-0510. Philosophies, goals, objectives, and comprehensive plans were presented to the board for their first reading on June 28th, 2018, and are now being presented to the board tonight for final approval.
Thank you, Dr. Phelps.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Dr. Patel.
Second.
And second by Ms. Connor Ratcliffe. Comments? Oh, yeah, I'll get there when I call it.
So I wanted to thank staff for the changes that I had requested. It all looks good. I'm just too much paper here, but I did hesitant to mention it, but I did mention one, and this is just a minor error. Now I can't find that. Okay. Looks just one minor grammatical change, and this is under the backside of BP 0410A.
Can you repeat that? BP
Don't have
04?
0410A. It's just a grammatical issue on the. Do you have the copy with the red markings there? So there's just something wrong with that. The sentence pursuant to notify the people district policy on non-discrimination related complaints. Period. And then it says the annual policy notification. Distributed by the district.
Which sentence is it?
It's the one in red.
Is it all the way on the bottom?
Like it's halfway down the page. Yeah, that sentence. There's some grammatic. It's just incorrectly written. It just needs to be rewritten.
Okay.
It's just a.
We'll look at that.
Grammar issue.
Okay, and if you can identify that specifically on your copy to Ms. Marshall, then we'll address that. Thank you.
So otherwise, yes, thank you for the changes.
Okay. Was there a motion for approval on that? Was it?
I'll move. Oh, you did? Right.
It's moved and seconded.
Right.
Move to amend the motion.
Okay. So.
With that correction and edit.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll move to amend the motion with the modification as described.
Second. Okay. The motion to amend has been motioned and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now to the original motion. It's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Thank you. Brings to item 11.1, or excuse me, 11.2, approval of California CSBA Board Policies 2000 series. Second reading, Dr. Phelps.
Board Policies 2000-2140 for administration were presented to the board for first reading on June 28, 2018, and are being presented to the board tonight for final approval.
Thank you, Dr. Phelps. Is there a motion? Oh, actually, did I? Yeah, I didn't. I forgot to take your preferential vote on that last one. Before I call the question on this one or ask for a motion, we can still record. Do you have a preferential vote for the last item?
I voted in my head, but I vote in favor.
In favor?
Yes.
All right. Please record his vote. Preferential vote is in favor for the last item. As for this item, is there a motion? Motion to approve by Dr. Patel. Second by Ms. O'Connor-Ratcliffe. Discussion. Ms. Beatty.
No.
Oh, you get me every time. You get me every time. All right. With that, then, all in favor? Oh, actually, preferential vote. Mr.
I
Schwartz?
vote in favor.
Votes in favor. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously with Mr. Schwartz' preferential vote in favor. Thank you. Agenda item 11.3, approval of CSBA Board Policies 9000 series, second reading. Dr. Phelps.
Thank you, President Zane. Board Policies 9000-9400, Board Bylaws were presented to the board for first reading on June 28, 2018, and are now being presented to the board tonight for final approval.
Thank you, Dr. Phelps. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Ms. O'Connor-Ratcliffe.
Second.
And second by Dr. Patel. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Preferential vote, Mr. Schwartz?
Yes.
Yes. Which guided the rest of us. We just got ahead of it. So motion carries unanimously with Mr. Schwartz' preferential vote in favor. Thank you. Item 11.4, an information item, California Association of Suburban School Districts update. I guess I'll turn it over to you to introduce it.
Thank you, President Zane. California Association of Suburban School District Representatives, Dr. Patel and Ms. O'Connor-Ratcliffe, attended the August 3rd Cal SSD conference and would like to share some updates.
Please, no timer. This is very important. So on August 3rd, we went up to Sacramento and worked with the California Suburban School District's lobbying group, advocacy group, and they provided a legislative update, specifically some highlights. We got an update on AB 2808, which is the Marsucci bill. It's a widely popular bill that's out of the Assembly and now in Senate appropriations. This bill specifies new funding targets for the 2019-2020 fiscal year as an update to the current LCFF targets that were set in 2013 and are already out of pace with costs due to STRS, PERS, minimum wage increases, and special education unfunded mandates, just to name a few reasons. Part of the full and fair funding campaign that many public education groups are collectively supporting all fall under this AB 2808. The district and I as an individual have submitted letters of support to Senate members on the Appropriations Committee, as well as our own Senator Tony Atkins. The second bill that we were given an update on is AB 1951 by O'Donnell, and it's the Pathways to College Act, and it's also in Senate Appropriations. It would allow districts to administer the SAT or ACT to 11th grade students as a substitute for the SBAC in math and English language arts. All tests would be administered during the school day to all students at no cost to the student. However, the cost differential between administering the SBAC and the SAT would be up to the district to bear the burden of. All test results would be released to the school district to have for their analysis. It does have the potential to substantially increase the number of 11th graders participating in testing over what they participate in the SBAC. California, yeah, go ahead.
Can I just add to that one? There was a little bit of a discussion on that. I don't think everyone's in favor of this bill.
That's correct.
There was some discussion about accommodations for students with any kind of IEP or 504. But the discussion centered a lot around for districts that are having problems getting 11th grade participation in SBAC, that this would be an alternative that could substantially increase the number of 11th graders on this, given that it has some real life helpful stuff for them, secondary to just data for the state and their school district. So it was an interesting discussion, but I think they've worked hard on overcoming some of the opposition from special education groups. That's what I pulled out of it.
Yeah, that's definitely the gist I got out of it. And as well, there were some concerns around, it does go to, we would then be bound to College Board, which is not exactly a nonprofit organization. So there were some concerns around that as well. There was an update on California Proposition 5, which is the Property Tax Transfer Initiative. This measure is designed to help with the housing crisis by incentivizing home sales, so it allow you to carry part of your previous tax base with you in the purchase of your new home. Unfortunately, if approved by voters, it would result in a loss of property tax in the near term, which will result in decreased school funding through the property tax revenue. It might require the governor, whoever that governor may be, to now make adjustments to support school funding. They also provided some highlights on Prop 98 K-12 funding. So they brought attention to the Strong Workforce Program, where dollars are split between two programs, community colleges and CTE. And it's fine for our district to apply to both programs. There were...
and we learned that we're probably doing that
yes.
already, so yay. Good
so
job.
It seems like a lot of the things that were highlighted, it seems like our staff already knows about and is already well on top of, which is great news. There was also a low-performing student supplemental grant in LCFF, and that was $300 million in one-time funding out of AB 2635 in entitlement grant. And that would basically result to about $1,900 per pupil that's not already covered in the categorical designations. So that's extra money for those students who are underperforming, and that would be a great resource to access.
And can I add to that? I think for our purposes, when we go back to the next meeting in October, it would be really nice to understand how that's going to affect our district specifically, because they were talking about low-performing pupils in categories 1 and 2. So it'd be great to know what those numbers are for us, so we can speak, from our district's perspective and not necessarily any district's perspective. So those numbers would be great to have when we go back.
And the last point I want to bring up that we discussed was the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, that there's funds available for teacher residency program grants. And those would be one-time competitive grants to local education agencies to develop new, expand existing teacher residency programs to recruit, support the preparation of special education teachers. Teachers are required to adhere to a 4-year commitment if we hire them or work with them through this program to participate. And teacher retention grants are coming and available in October.
Can I jump back to that one about the teacher residency program grants? Dr. Patel and I were talking about, we were thinking we remembered that we're doing that here. We just had something about that in June, perhaps? Can anybody say yes, we're doing it, or not, we're not doing it yet, or we're on our way to teacher residency programs here? Because we thought we remembered a discussion about that, but we weren't sure.
Either one of us
say
could
that
remember
there
the
were only
specifics.
about 12 districts in the whole state doing it. So if we're one of them, we are likely to get a piece of this grant money.
Mrs. Osborne is new to her position and unfortunately just started and is not aware. I don't know if anyone from her staff can answer that question, or if we can get back to you at a later date, that would be appreciated.
Yeah, and really it would be a good move to find out, because if this is grant money, there's a limited pot of money, and if we're qualified to apply for it, we should do it soon. Yeah, that was the message we got.
The sooner we apply, the better our chances of getting it. And then during this meeting, we also had 2 guest speakers. One provided an analysis of Janus, the Janus decision, and subsequent passage of AB 866, which is regarding mass communications with employees by the district. The other was from a State Board of Education member reviewing changes to the school dashboard. We wrapped up a meeting with a review of CalSSD principles and legislative priorities for 2018. That's the handout I've passed to you. I would really like to establish some consensus around these priorities so that when we go back in October for the next meeting, we can provide some feedback on whether we do agree with these priorities or whether we would like to make some improvements or changes. And perhaps we can put this on the agenda for discussion in September. And I'd like staff input as well as board member input. I think it would be good. If we're going to keep doing this, we should make it official, formal, and make it useful to us. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just add that I think that part, getting feedback from staff with our specific information from our district, I think is really essential, and from the board, to making sure that we're representing POSD well up there, because suburban school districts do not have the same things in common that we used to. We have very, very different levels of LCFF funding when we're up in that room. We go from basic aid to 90-some% unduplicated count with, concentration grants, going crazy up in some of the districts. So we don't have as much in common with other districts in that room as we once might have before LCFF. So knowing our specifics and advocating strongly for what will help us the most, I think is really important to make this group work for us. Otherwise, I don't know what we're doing there.
For example, in the previous months, they were soliciting input on that bill regarding the SATs, and I think if we had some formal input from LSS to know how that would impact our school sites, and maybe from BSS on how that would impact budgets if we chose to do that, we could have come prepared to voice our opinion and our concern. And I think what we've decided is we really need to do this if we're going to make it work. We want to do it the right way.
Well, thank you to both of you. And to your last point, Mr. Connor-Ratcliffe, I agree wholeheartedly. I've taken trips to CalSSD with each of you at different times or another, and one of my biggest concerns with that organization has been specifically around the topic of the LCFF, the adequacy of the funding formula, and as it relates to Poway Unified, and watching school districts like Poway Unified that are high performing but low on duplicated counts get less money, and school districts that are simply because they have high unduplicated counts but are underperforming get so much more money. And the problem, as I see it, and I remember floating this in the room at one of the meetings, and it kind of went over like a skunk in the room, was that the state really needs to put in place a series of metrics to determine whether those school districts who are receiving more money because of high unduplicated counts are actually improving their performance. And as it currently is, there's not adequate metrics in place, and so these districts continue to get more money through the LCF funding formula at the same level or higher year after year, and we continue to get less, and we are left with dealing with structural budget deficits and a whole host of other issues. So I look forward to continued work on this and staff feedback on these items that Dr. Patel provided. And thank you for a great report. Appreciate it. All right, that brings us to item 12.1, information board member reports. And I'll start down the line with Mr. Schwartz.
So I wrote out my report just to get a head start. So I'm elated and humbled to sit before you and promise to make every effort to rise to responsibilities in which I have been entrusted in this position. Over the course of these last few weeks, I have been trying my best to integrate myself into the job and better understand the current issues facing the Poway Unified School District. To this end, I have met with Mr. Zane, Dr. Patel, Mr. Connor-Ratcliffe, and Ms. Beatty to better understand their views, goals, and desires for this upcoming school year. I have also met with my 3 predecessors and taken an internship with California Assemblyman Brian Mainshine to better understand the job from a government level. I have contacted multiple school principals to tour their campuses and had the opportunity to record a podcast with Ms. Peck. I've also began the process of meeting with the ASB presidents of Westview, Poway, Del Norte, and Mel Carmel to learn about their individual school issues from a leadership standpoint. My final task over this past month has been to put more effort and attention into my social media presence, which has allowed me to gauge the opinions of students across all campuses. In my application, I discussed what I believe to be the 3 most pressing areas I hope to address during my tenure: safety, counseling, and infrastructure. Although dramatically improving these areas in the short term of a year is a hefty and perhaps insurmountable challenge, I'll be working my absolute hardest to get real, tangible, positive change in the Poway community. I also hope to cultivate cooperative, non-adversarial relationships with my fellow board members in order to focus on the students. Whether we agree or disagree, there will always be a common ground and the same goal: support and represent the wants of the Poway Unified students. The students are why we are all here today. Sitting in this chair, I am lucky enough to represent them all. I take that responsibility seriously, and I believe that the key to that responsibility is responsiveness. Those who know me best know that I prioritize people and my relationships with them. With that in mind, I want to hear from you and from the students we serve. Please never hesitate to contact me, talk to me, or share your opinion, good or bad. And please extend the same invitation to your students and parents. I'm here for you and for them. I look forward to working with each and every one of you over the course of this next year. Working together, I believe we can build a better district. Thank you for your time and your attentiveness.
Well done. Thank you, Mr. Conner Ratcliffe.
It's been a wonderful summer, and our students are still enjoying it for a couple of weeks, even though most of us are back. I hope some of you had a chance up here to get out there, to get out to the Del Mar Fair, to see our students' work on display there. My family in particular was so impressed. We wandered through it was air conditioned, it was fabulous. To see the level of talent that our students had on display there in robotics, photography, art, and yearbook. Those are specifically the ones that we walked past, but there were so many ribbons. It was really amazing. My kids' favorite was the livestock, of course, and there were ribbons everywhere there too. So well done by our Poway Unified students and their teachers who guided them into that. It was an amazing accomplishment. Our extended school year, ESY, ended just last week, and my own kiddo had a great month there at Los Penasquitos Elementary. It was great to have them hosting that many kiddos, and their parking lot was overflowing with buses every day. Thanks to all our district employees who worked so hard for our students this summer there and at the other campuses where we were running ESY. Hopefully, all of our students who had the opportunity to be there will be ready to go on day one. That's the whole point. I know mine can't stand. He's at loose ends. Like, when is school starting again? So I can't wait. I visited the Penasquitos Town Council meeting last week to talk about new, changing, expanding programs that are happening in our district this year. And despite our difficult budget circumstances, our services to students are only getting better. So thank you. I credit our staff up here and our board input. I think this is going very well so far. They were happy to hear it. Asked a lot of questions, and I like to throw Sacramento under the bus, but it was a good group. They had intelligent questions, and I look forward to updating them more frequently, perhaps. As you just heard, I spent a long day up in Sacramento with our Cal SSD group and Dr. Patel. Again, our input of the board and staff really should ensure that we get the most out of this advocacy group if we're going to keep doing it. Don't just let the other districts speak for us when they don't necessarily have our same interests. Tuesday, just a couple days ago, was a beautiful and hot evening out at National Night Out hosted by the San Diego Police Department Northeastern Division. That event is meant to heighten awareness of crime and drug prevention and strengthen some neighborhood partnerships. It seemed like everybody was represented there, and I was left wondering if our district should have had a table there. Everyone was there. Food and fun for all. My favorite part was that four-legged Love on a Leash ambassadors that were wandering around. Cutest dogs you'll ever see. Also on that same night, our Poway Unified Adult Ed graduation ceremony. Mr. Sellers and Dr. Patel were there as well, along with Dr. Burke. Are you a doctor yet? Oh, she's so close. Oh, my God. Okay, Ms. Burke. Many of our students received high school equivalency certificates and some summer graduate diplomas, so that was fantastic to see. Congratulations to all of them, and special kudos to Kathleen Porter out there and her staff on a really wonderfully planned celebration. That was fantastic, and I was really happy to be there. I'll just close with the first day of school's around the corner. I know how much planning and work is happening there. Last night at Mesa Verde PTA, they were breaking in their new board members, including me, and planning for registration and back to school night already. I know other PTAs and foundations are doing that same kind of work. So to all of our parents, our staff, our community members working and planning to make 2018-2019 the best school year possible for all of our students, thank you. Keep it up. The end.
Thank you. Mr. Sellers.
Ms. Beatty asks me to relay that she has no report. Mine will be brief. Yes, I did also attend the summer graduation a couple of days ago. It's a little less formal than the regular graduations, but no less joyous. Very, very, very happy participants and family members. And it's also really inspiring because a lot of those folks who are coming to pick up their sheepskin have overcome some pretty serious adversity in their lives and deserve a lot of credit for sticking with it and bettering themselves rather than quitting on themselves. So I'm always very impressed with the caliber of people who shake my hand up there. Mr. Schwartz, welcome. I noticed that my name was conspicuously absent from the list of board members that you've met with, and I apologize for that. We have to remedy that between now and the next board meeting. So we will get together and talk about whatever you want to talk about. So, but other than that, yes, I hope everybody had a radical summer. My family and I took a trip to Washington, D.C. to see just a small portion of what our nation's capital offers. My son, as I may have mentioned, is a history major, and so he was fascinated by all of it. And the weather there was typical. It was about 90 degrees, 90% humidity, which I thought was really terrible for 6 days until the 7th day when it rained. And I realized, oh, it could be worse. So glad to be back in San Diego, glad to be back in PowayUSD. Wish everybody a good school year.
Dr. Patel.
Welcome back to school, and I can say that because some of our sites have already welcomed students back, so the school year has started, and other schools are in the final stages of preparing for the first day of school. Many thanks to PowayUSD and the Westview High School staff for hosting and welcoming the PQ community to celebrate 4th of July on the 3rd of July with a fireworks show in the stadium. I recognize that this community event is going through some significant changes due to new city policies, and the community is very appreciative of the flexibility shown by our staff, so thank you very much. I want to give kudos to Jay Postoraro, band director at Mesa Verde Middle School, for organizing the summer band camp for, I think it was the 15th year or something like that. I can't remember now. There are students from many schools throughout the district, middle schools throughout the district, that participate in this one-week opportunity to brush up on their skills, perhaps try a new instrument like my 6th grader did. She's now learning French horn. She's very excited about it. Or to simply play in the middle school band for the first time. It was very exciting for these kids to have this opportunity. Of course, he is supported by Robert Resto, Heather Barkley, guest director Than Kirby, and orchestra director Patty Puckett. The concert was fantastic, and I know both of my middle school bandos love this camp, and I hope to see it continue for many years to come. I did schedule time to meet with Carol Osborne, our new Associate Superintendent of Learning Support Services. I can't express enough in words how confident I feel about the direction of our district. It will be heading in the right direction. I know this after I've met with her and spoken with her. She's working diligently and efficiently to assess where we are and developing plans with her administrative team to take our districts forward, and I'm very proud of the work, and I'm excited to see what's to come. No pressure, except all the pressure. Sorry. As Board Member O'Connor Ratcliffe said, we attended the California Suburban School District meeting, and I did give out my report from that. But I want to stress the importance of advocacy work that our board members can do. Our roles as trustees go way beyond the day-to-day operations of the district and also include supporting and advocating for public education with our state-level elected officials. I see this work as critical to ensuring equity in public education and see this as a particular strength that board members can bring to the school district. I did take the time out to observe PowayUSD kindergarten teachers receiving training on benchmark curriculum instruction. I heard feedback from several of our teachers saying this training was necessary and much appreciated. It can be very overwhelming when we roll out new curriculum, and I'm pleased to hear that district office staff is supporting our teachers through these transitions. It's very meaningful work. Kudos to staff for getting that put together. I did participate with the principals and APs on their second day of their Leadership Academy. Wow, that was pretty intense and impressive. There was a fantastic mix of guided discussion and examination of leadership support structures, and I really do feel like our administrative staff at the school sites are ready for this school year. But possibly the highlight of the summer for me was attending and participating in the New Directions commencement ceremony for summer school and adult school, as I did with my fellow board colleagues. This is a graduation ceremony for summer school and adult learners in the district, and the students receive diploma or high school equivalency certificates. It was particularly moving because for many of these students, reaching this milestone has been a very long and arduous journey that was never, ever taken for granted or assumed. So congratulations to those students who have reached this very important milestone. And with that, I'll close my board report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Patel. Well, so last board meeting, in the interest of time, I don't remember what time we left. It was pretty late. I dispensed of a board report, so I'm going to update you on some things that I did following the May 10th board meeting up to the present. So it'll make me appear as though I've been very, very busy just in the past month alone. But just going back really quickly, I'll just, you know how I give my reports. I'll just run through and tell you some events I attended. On May 11th, the PowayUSD Foundation Golf Tournament at Madeiras Country Club. Great, very well organized event to benefit our foundation. On May 15th, the Palomar Council PTA Annual Awards Meeting and Breakfast at the Bernardo Heights Country Club. I see our esteemed photographer for the event is in the audience now. On May 16th, the annual, my honor again, always great privilege to MC the annual Character and Ethics Film Festival at the Poway Center for Performing Arts. It's, I believe, the 4th year in a row I've done that, and happy to do so in the future. On May 18th, I attended Friday Flag and did a campus visit at Westwood Elementary School. Probably one of the largest Friday Flag gatherings I think I've ever seen. It was really impressive. On May 18th again, later that evening, I attended the Sunset Hills Foundation auction. On the 21st of May, I met with students at Meadowbrook Middle School who had taken the time as part of one of their class assignments to write, I assume myself and other board members, about a whole host of topics. I reached out to the principal and arranged a meeting with those very same students that wrote letters to me. Then we just sat around the library and addressed a lot of their questions that they had. It was a great experience. I really enjoyed that. On May 25th, attended the Palomar College 2018 commencement ceremony in San Marcos, our proud partnership with Palomar College. On May 29th, attended the 2018 Cox Scholars Breakfast at the Prado in Balboa Park, where I saw a few Poway Unified School District students get presentation and get recognized there. On May 30th, attended the dyslexia awareness event here at the district office. I know that was also mentioned by some other board members at the last board meeting. Standing room only. This whole room was it was packed. It was a great event, very informative event, and thank you to staff and others for pulling that off. On June 6th, attended the full orchestra and wind ensemble concert at Mount Carmel High School. And June 8th, the annual PowayUSD staff luncheon here at the district office. There wasn't like the wood fire grill though this time though. I mean, I missed that. But it was still a great lunch. It was a pleasure to be there at the end of the year luncheon. On June 9th, the Mount Carmel Music Foundation Awards Banquet. Amazing how many people participate in that Music Foundation, Mount Carmel High School, the banquet, just hundreds of people at the thing, banquet. On June 12th, met here at the district office with Dr. Phelps and some constituents regarding dyslexia issues, many of whom were involved with the aforementioned dyslexia awareness event. On June 13th, got a nice sunburn sitting at the Los Penn Elementary School promotion ceremony, right out there in their baseball field with no shade cover whatsoever. But it was a tremendous honor. It was a great time. Great kids. The very next day, I added to my sunburn at Bernardo Heights Middle School promotion ceremony, right there, right on the concrete steps there, right out in the open, blazing hot. But it was fantastic. Congratulations to all those students that moved on. Later that evening, just some sun on the face for a little while, but I got to walk out to Hell's Bells at Rancho Bernardo High School at their graduation ceremony. That was quite the experience. Maybe one of a kind, right? Rancho Bernardo doing Hell's Bells. It's fantastic. And then 2 weeks later, we had a board meeting on July 4th. It was fun to shoot water pistols off the PowayUSD fire truck in the 4th of July parade in Rancho Bernardo. As some have said, soaking the taxpayers. On July, and then lastly, but not, it's a play on words. I thought I heard you guys say that. Yeah. Lastly, more recently, and on a more serious note, I attended a 3-day conference in Pasadena, the 2018 Campus Safety Conference. It was a tremendous learning opportunity. I picked up a great amount of information. I look forward to sharing and sitting down with Mr. Mizell and others in the district office. We covered quite a bit in the areas of threat assessment, building security, staff training, student awareness, communications, emergency response, and recovery. Working, and I got to know some of the folks who help organize that event, and I want to see that, and I was told that there'll be another similar conference coming up in October, where I was pleased to learn that there will be incorporating into the program more items having to do with programmatic items having to do with best practices for student social and emotional wellness as it relates to all of these campus safety items. I also look forward to attending the option-based response training tomorrow here at the district office. And I also hope to next month be able to report met some great people up at this public safety conference in Pasadena from Siemens Technology, and working with them to get 5 digital signs. They look like clocks, but they're pretty big. But they double as emergency notification systems, and working to get 5 of those signs to have the school sites decide where on the school campus they want to place those. But 5 free signs for every school in the district, and so that's a major contribution. Great product, and so it touches upon my passion, as you've seen. Sparked not as I would have liked to have the discussion to have been sparked here with the Parkland shootings in March. I've said before, 4 years ago, I mentioned that was a concern of mine, campus safety. Needless to say, we've had a lot of things that we've had to deal with over the 3 years after first getting elected, and now with a new superintendent in place and a full complement of a cabinet, we can start to focus on things that really matter in the district. And I maintain that campus safety is first and foremost among those. If your kids are, you want your kids to be happy, you want them to be learning, you want them to be safe. If they're not happy, or if they're not safe, it doesn't matter if they're happy and if they're learning. So thank you, and that concludes my report. Dr. Phelps.
President Zane, your report went longer than normal, and I predicted to staff we would end at 8:30, so let's see if I can still do that.
You told me 8:15. That's why
I
it took
8:30.
a long time. So I can...
So even during the summer, our students have been winning awards, and I encourage you to please look at our board packet for the full description in 12.2. But in the interest of time, I'd like to highlight a couple. Our very own student board member, Jake Schwartz, was awarded the President's Volunteer Service Award for all of his community service, so congratulations, Jake. Our Studio 701 video interns were also among the winners at the San Diego County Innovative Video in Education Film Festival. So congratulations to our 701 video interns. I had opportunity to visit Valley Elementary School on their first day of school, our only school that actually already opened in August. So they always get my full attention on their first day of school. And I had opportunity to walk classrooms with the principal and welcome teachers and students back to school. This summer, actually, June, July, and August has been extremely busy for us here at the district office and for our staff. We worked really hard to ensure that our schools are ready to open for our students. Last Friday, we held an extended cabinet retreat for district office leadership. And then this week, we also hosted the district's very first Leadership Academy for all of our site principals and APs. I want to thank my full cabinet for their very hard work, where we were able to work collaboratively all summer in planning these powerful PDs for our administrators, and I believe that they were very well received, and we were very excited about the outcome and the feedback that we received from all of our administrators. We focused on building leadership capacity among Team PUSD, fostering a culture of trust, innovation, and excellence. Next Friday, our teachers return, and we are bringing forward a world-renowned respected educator, Dr. Yang Zhao, who also authored several books, one being World-Class Learners, one being Leading the Way, and his last book, Reach for Greatness. We're focusing on how we can reach for greatness and create and support global learners through personalized education, and staff has worked very hard to get this funded and through donations with our partnerships to bring him to be a keynote speaker for our teachers on their first day back. So we're all very excited to attend that. I'm also excited to kick off another school year, and our team has been working hard throughout the summer. Personnel has been nonstop busy, working hard to ensure that all of our schools are staffed. I received feedback from all of our principals that this is the first year that all of our principals have received support from PSS in bringing, ensuring that all of their teachers have been hired and have been processed prior to the start of school. Facilities and maintenance have been making sure our campuses are ready for our students. ESS and preschool were full swing over this summer. Business has been making sure that our budget is in order so that our programs and supplies can be funded. Our tech and innovation department has been updating equipment and conducting trainings. And our LSS department has been very, very busy on ensuring and preparing for professional development and the instructional materials ready for our schools. And our Student Support Services Division has been working very diligently to ensure that we're ready to provide specialized services and services to meet the needs of all of our special ed students. The list goes on. And so I hope that you join me in my excitement and thanking all of our directors, our executive directors, and all of my associate superintendents for all of their hard work this summer to ensure that we are ready and to open all of our schools. I hope that 2018 and 19 will be a new beginning for a stronger, more unified PUSD. Working together, we can accomplish great things for our students. So I thank you all for your super hard work over the summer, and thank you for your constant support for the sake of our kids. So speaking of our students, I wanted to give you the very first public debut of our Welcome Back video. Just as a disclaimer, last year we created a welcome back video for all of our students and our families that included all of the adults that work in the district. Our nutrition staff, our office employees, our district office staff, our principals. But this year, I really wanted to create a welcome back video that really highlighted our children and our students to emphasize the why in what we do and why we're here, and to remind us of who we serve and what is PUSD really about. So not to hurt anybody's feelings, but just want to highlight there's very few adults in this video. There are our 2 teachers of the year who are in there, who were also national, our state teachers of the year. We have a couple of office staff from one of our schools. We have our site principals in the video, and by mere ejection, I'm in the video. I objected, but I was forced by staff to be in it. But I want to thank Christine Peck and her student interns for doing an amazing job. And so this is our back to school video that we plan to debut and hopefully go live by the week of the first week of school before kids come back. If you've seen the movie The Greatest Showman, we always talk about what is it that keeps us going? What is it that inspires us? And when things get tough, for me, this is that song that lifts me up. It's that song called This Is Me, and it reminds me about what's important and what do we value, and to remind myself that I'm important too, and we all we all have special attributes to contribute to the whole system, as to remind us why PUSD is so great. Christine and the interns far exceeded my expectations, and I am super proud to share with you our video entitled This Is Us, PUSD.
I am not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send the blood, gonna drown a mind. I am brave, I am bruised, I am be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown a mind. This is brave, this is bruised, this is who I'm meant to be. This is me. This is me.
Thank you, Christine, and your students for far exceeding my expectations and creating this beautiful video. I want to remind you, those are all of our kids. Those are our schools. And this video, I won't name which districts, but other districts have made videos and paid tens of thousands of dollars to have those made by professional company. This video was done, edited, created by our communications director and our students. And so they did an amazing job. Why this video? What is POSD? I want to remind our school community and those that we serve why we were elected to our positions and why we were chosen and why we chose to do this profession and why we do what we do. So we are a place where Poway Unified is a place where we believe every student can succeed, a place where our kids can thrive and learn to be their best selves, and where diversity is valued and dreams are achieved, and this is us.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips. Ms. Peck, great job with the students. That was fantastic. I regret I'm going to miss some activities next week with teachers and other staff, as I'll be 11,000 feet up in the Sierras with Boy Scouts, hiking and fishing. But no bathrooms. No bathrooms. But want to remind everybody our next board meeting is on Thursday, September 13th. But before that is Labor Day, and take an opportunity that weekend to think about all of the staff in Poway Unified who do such a great job for our students every day. So thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.